Hey there, OpenShift fans. Today, I'm going to show you a capability that just went GA in OpenShift 4.20. User Namespaces support. Might not sound real exciting to you. It's a kernel level feature, but combined with some changes to security context constraints and capabilities in OpenShift itself, it will allow you to do things that up until now you had to relax security in your OpenShift cluster in order to achieve. So if you've ever needed to run a container inside of a container in OpenShift, like running test containers in a CI/CD pipeline, or if you've ever struggled with a container image that really needed to run as a fixed UID or even run as UID 0, that is now possible. So without further ado, let me dive in and show you how this works. First thing we're going to do is create a security context constraint in our OpenShift cluster. This security context constraint, let me walk you through it just real quick. You'll see it's called container in container. This SCC is going to allow set UID and set GID capabilities for the container. It's going to allow the FS group to have a range from ID 1000 to about 64K. It's going to specify that the UID of the container must be 1000. It's going to run with the SE Linux type of container engine T, and it's giving it a supplemental group range. The important piece here is this user namespace level, require pod level, instructs the runtime to map your running container into a new UID GID space on the OpenShift node. And I'll show you what that really means as we get into this. So now we've got a security context constraint. Let's launch a pod to take advantage of that. So I'm going to create a pod here. And you can ignore this warning. This warning is because I didn't actually align a user or the service account in this namespace that I'm using with the security context constraint, but I am instructing this container to run with the SCC of container in container. You'll also see that I've asked for a couple of devices, DevFuse and DevNetTon, to be leaked into this container. I'm matching the SCC here by asking to run as UID 1000 and asking for these two capabilities here. And I have asked for an unmasked /proc. But the really important piece here is this: host users set to false is also aligning with the SCC requirement of requiring pod level. So these two things aligning together mean that when I pop into this container here in just a minute, you're going to see that I'm actually running as UID 1000 in the container. So let me show you that now. RSH into this container. Let me pop the terminal up to the top and I'll show you. I am UID 1000, I am GID 1000. Let's pull a container image. So there you can see Podman pull works, no problem. Let's run this container. There we go. I'm running a container, Podman PS, running a container inside a container. Now this particular container image, it's actually running a little Nginx server, and all that Nginx server does is serves up this little banner right here. So you can see I've mapped port 80 inside of my container in the pod to port 8080, and I now have this Nginx server that is running as UID 1100 inside my container. So what's happening on the host node? Well, let's go see if we can find out. So I'm going to pop over real quick to the console here for OpenShift, and there's our pod that's running. The reason I popped over here is because I need to see which of the nodes in my lab this is running on. It's running on 10.11.12.71. So let's go take a look at that node. We'll SSH into that as the core user, 10.11.12.71. And let's look for that Nginx process. There's the Nginx process. And you'll see it maps to the same Nginx process that I see here. But notice, we're inside of the container. This process is showing up as UID 1100. On the host node itself, it's running as a very high random UID. This is the magic of user namespaces. So inside the container, I'm now not only a fixed UID and GID, but I've also enabled a full container runtime so that I can podman run, I can podman compose up if I want to. Those of you who are Ansible developers, I could now run a full Ansible execution environment. And in fact, in another video, I'm going to show you how this really enables developers' autonomy inside of OpenShift dev spaces. But before I pop over there and record the next video, let's do one more thing, and let's podman exec into the container that's running inside of our container that's running in the OpenShift cluster. And you'll see that in that container, I am actually root. UID 0, GID 0. And my Nginx process is running as the user Nginx, which is mapped to UID 1100 in my container, which is mapped to this really big random UID on the host node. Okay, so there you have it. I can now run a container in a container, and I can also run a pod with a known and a fixed UID and GID. I can take this a step further. Let me get out of this, and let's create one more security context constraint. And this one we're going to call run as root. And you'll see, if you go look at this SCC and you compare it to one of the out-of-the-box SCCs, you'll see that this one aligns pretty well with the any UID SCC. But where that one allows any UID that will also be running as the host ID on the host node, this any UID, because it requires pod level for the namespace, it will take advantage of user namespaces and map me into a separate UID GID space. So to show you how that works, let's fire up another pod and let's OC RSH into that pod. And you'll see again, in this pod, I'm running as root. Let's see, do we have any files here? Let's do this. Let's do a tail minus f of slash etsy. Let's pick something here. We'll do a tail minus f of etsy message of the day. Okay, not doing anything, but the reason I did this is so I can go back over here and I can, inside of this node, do another ps-ef and grep for motd. And you can see there's my tail minus f of motd running as root in the container, but on the host node running as a very high level UID. So there it is, real quick. In just a couple of minutes, this is the magic of user namespaces in OpenShift. If you want to take a look at what I just did, I have a Git repository that has all of these notes in it right here, which I will also put in the tag for this particular video. And stay tuned for a video showing you the same thing in OpenShift Dev Spaces. Cheers!